Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Mermaid Mystic Substack and YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be exploring Mercury. As some of you may know, it is Mercury retrograde, and this is always when the internet just like blows up with memes, and we're always like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And like, yeah, that is sometimes what can happen. But I wanted to explore Mercury through a different lens today, to explore Mercury through an alchemical lens, to understand Mercury on a different level, to see how this planet and this energy, and if you choose to view it this way, this god, actually can help us to be incredible tarot readers, and how this information, this guidance, is accessible to all. So if this sounds interesting, go ahead and grab a pen and paper if you want to jot down some notes, and let's dive into the magic of Mercury. So firstly, let's have a peek at Mercury in the tarot. So as you may or may not know, you're about to know, every card in the tarot has an astrological correspondence. So in the major arcana, this looks like it's either going to be a planet or an astrological sign. And in the minor arcana, it's going to be a planet in a sign. So Gemini in the major arcana is the magician. And so the magician is, this card is actually like rich and super packed with imagery. Sometimes we talk about how the magician is like the manifester, or they're making things happen. And while that's all very true, there are cards in the minor arcana that convey that information just fine. So remember, major arcana means the big secrets. Minor arcana means the little secrets. So there's something bigger. There's something almost archetypal here. There's some kind of deeper connection to the mysteries of the collective unconscious whenever we're pulling a major arcana card. So there's something really exciting to dive into here. So what we see on this card is indeed a magician. So we have this figure. We've got arm pointed up and arm pointed down. What do we hear in magic all the time, and also in alchemy? As above, so below. So this sounds like a really nice phrase, but if we start to understand Mercury and this card, we're going to actually understand what that phrase means and then also how to apply it. So we see that the figure is dressed in a white outfit, tunic, robe, and then it's got like this really great red kind of outfit on top. I don't know what any of these things are called, but you get the idea. We got white, we got red. We have an Ouroboros belt. We've got roses and lilies all around. We've got this table, and on the table we've got the 4 suits of the minor arcana. And each suit in the minor arcana is associated with an element. So that means that cup here represents water, swords represent air, pentacles represent earth, and wands represent fire. So in alchemy, when we manage to honor all of our elements, what we create is quintessence. So we become like a channel for like universal life force energy. And that's exactly what the magician is doing here. So we've got an arm up, an arm down. So there's this idea that the universe is channeling, the magician is channeling this universal life force energy. And the magician is able to do that because they have all of their elements balanced. So if you're interested in creating an altar for yourself, having a representative of each element is a great way to become a channel for spirit and to welcome this energy into your life. To apply this in a more practical, everyday manner, you could see how cups are water, so like emotions and intuition, relationships and fantasies. Wands are fire, and so passion, creativity, and drive. Earth, pentacles, so we've got the material, we've got money, we've got finances, we've got health. And then swords are air, their ideas, learning, communication. So if these are all in harmony, let's call it. I think sometimes with balance, we have this idea of like 25%, 25%, 25, like we've got this kind of like numbers game going on. I would think perhaps more of the elements as in harmony. How does this apply to reading tarot? I explain. So when you're reading tarot, it is not just memorizing the cards and then regurgitating memorizations. Any really great reading is going to connect through the heart. And so that has to go beyond just the head, right? And so one way that we can do our readings is to realize that it is a bit of a full body experience. Like you're not like jogging and doing it, but you are listening to your body. You're listening to your physical body. Intuition often shows up in the body, whether it's a gut feeling, a heart feeling, and of course, yes, it can absolutely be in your head. It can be tingling hands and tingling feet. It could be a sensation that moves through you. So with pentacles, you see that we're listening to our bodies when we're reading tarot, because you can memorize those card meanings till you're blue in the face, and you'd probably give a decent reading with just the memorizations. But if you want to get a reading that connects to the heart, and that's what we're really looking for in readings, right? We want to be seen. If we're reading for ourselves, then we want to see ourselves. We want to hold space for ourselves. We want to be seen by spirit. If we're reading for someone else, we want to hold space in which we can really, truly see them. And we see truly with the heart, right? So the pentacles are you're using your whole bod. Swords with learning, I would say, is certainly open to spiritual insight. So those flashes of insight. I know some people who hear things as a form of their intuition, or further beyond that, their psychic gifts. They'll hear a name or they'll hear a place. So that is one way that, you could think about air. Another way with air is we could be thinking about it as how we've learned the cards and how we are communicating with them. Because tarot you are learning a system of divination. You are learning an established system of translating artwork, of the mysteries of some mystery schools that have been put in here. There's astrology, there's alchemy. It is so rich and there's so much to learn. And having said that, you don't need to learn all of the things I just mentioned in order to give a good reading. This is more just to show that you don't ever stop learning tarot. And so it keeps you very alive if you stay engaged with it. It's very hard to get stagnant with tarot because there's so many different ways to stay alive with it, with the learning and the inspiration and pushing yourself to a next level. With the wands, you could see that as the passion, as spirit, right? And transformation, fire, wands are fire, is the great transformer. And a reading, absolutely, I really believe and was taught that it should be a transformative experience, which I'm going to say a misunderstanding I think about tarot there is that tarot readings just give us what we want and they give us all the answers and they tell us what to do. They make our choices for us. They kind of spoon feed us. My friends, do not live as if you are wearing a bib. That's how the universe will treat you. If you want to be an empowered, responsible adult, that's where you're going to get the most out of tarot, and recognize that our decisions are always up to us, no matter what. There's nothing that we don't want to give that autonomy away. We don't want to give that away, even if it's tempting. Sometimes it seems easier. Tarot, just tell me what to do. It just does not seem to be the way spirit rolls. So with this transformative energy, I am fire, this passion. Fire is also creativity and connection to spirit. It's very alive. And so for me with a tarot reading, if we can learn it and study it, and then we're passionate about it, and we're learning about it in a way that lights us up, and we're turning to readings as a way to be seen, we're feeling it in our bodies, it becomes this very alive experience. It was something we could be passionate about sharing, passionate about teaching. It can also, and again, it can transform us because when sometimes just the space of sitting in a reading and feeling heard, really being heard without judgment, this alone can be incredibly transformative, right? It's so healing to be heard and seen and not judged. To be heard and seen in our pain, our shame, the things that we don't want to tell anyone else, and to just be held. And then to receive some sort of insight or guidance to map out the path back to harmony, whatever that is for each of us, right? And then remembering that we must take action on this path, or else readings just stay in a kind of mystical, magical realm. And then, of course, with water is all about that intuition. I always feel like water needs to move, it flows, right? Like still water becomes very stagnant. And so with water and feelings and intuition, we have to lean into tarot not just as an intellectual activity, but as an act of love. We're connecting to spirit. You don't have to. Like, you use tarot totally as a mirror and see it just as a mirror of your subconscious. Certainly, absolutely, that's one way to do it. But if you're into it, then tarot absolutely opens you up to messages from your spirit guides, to messages from past loved ones, animal guides, the wicks. And so tarot, for me, like this love, this connection can flow so beautifully. So I hope I've conveyed, my attempt here has been to convey the magician. Yes, it is a card of action and getting it done, but it is a card of life, of animation, of channeling spirit, and then seeing how bing, 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 everything fires up. And really, if you look at that infinity symbol above the magician, so many ways to translate this. I really enjoy this symbol because I feel like the more you study the infinity symbol, the more you're just sort of like, blah, blah, blah. It's like so simple, but never ending, complicated at the same time. And you can see sort of how with that, it's feeding itself, right? The infinity symbol never stops feeding itself, a bit like that Ouroboros there on that belt. And so I feel like it's letting us know that when we honor all parts of ourselves, the passionate, the logical, the emotional, the physical. We naturally become this conduit for spirit. And then as we become a conduit for spirit, as we're channeling this life force energy, the elements have a way of harmonizing themselves. And it's just when we get into this flow, it is this incredibly alive place. And lastly, another gift I want to share about this card is the belt, the Ouroboros. So the Ouroboros is that serpent, nom, 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 eating its tail. It's always unbecoming and becoming. And I think if we could apply that, not just to our tarot readings, but to life, we can release ourselves from the pain and illusion of permanence. We can accept that everything is always changing. And when we stop gripping so tightly to keep something the way exactly we think it should be, do not move, do not change, it must be like this. When we ease up and then we start to feel that Ouroboros move through our lives, I feel like it just gets easier. We just grip less tightly. We accept that change is a part of life. So sometimes things are really rough. The snake will continue to eat itself and the rough times will end. And then enjoy the good times. What comes up must come down, and that's okay. And that's just how it goes over and over again. So this is going to bring us back to Mercury. And Mercury being this planet in alchemy. So alchemy follows 7 stages. I'm going to be referring to spiritual alchemy here because I don't do any of the science bit because I'm really bad at it. So I know more about spiritual alchemy and all the philosophy and the meditations and everything and the spells associated with that. Okay, so we have these 7 stages of alchemy. And if you're curious, you ever hear about you want to alchemize something, right? You want to turn that lead into gold. You want to turn that pain into wisdom. You want to turn that heaviness into lightness, whatever that is. Alchemy is the stages through which you can do that. It is so supportive. It is such a gorgeous, incredible tool for transformation. And so the 7 stages of alchemy align with what's called in alchemy is the ladder of planets. And so we have these 7 rungs on the ladder of planets, and each rung corresponds with a stage in alchemy. So Mercury is on this ladder of planets, and Mercury follows the 4th stage, conjunction. And so this is where a sacred marriage has taken place between the Red King and the White Queen. So you can think about the Red King and White Queen. Don't think about them as people, because I think sometimes we get way too literal. And you're like, oh yeah, dudes and ladies. This is too simplistic. Think about the Red King as an energy. It's the energy that wants to study something, that wants to have theories, that wants to focus on the future, that wants to expand. We need that. And then think about the White Queen as an energy of contentment, receptivity, sensuality, myths and myth making, as opposed to science. But what you'll see is that it's not about one or the other. So what's happened in alchemy is that they get married and then they're going to make a baby. But anyways, so to get back to Mercury, we could go on about all this stuff because it's so rich and fabulous and fascinating. So Mercury follows conjunction, which is associated with the planet Venus, PS. So with Mercury now, ideally with the Red King and the White Queen, what we've done is through this marriage, we're now not just intellectually seeing life through the head and the heart, but we're like living that way. So the heart is open. We are trusting our heart, right? We're not just like overthinking everything, but we're not completely lost or run by our strong emotions. So when we actually start to live that way, when we actually start to see things with the head and the heart, with the spirit and the material, and we were kind of moving past this idea of duality, and we're entering into this awareness that everything is connected, everything is one. The material is spiritual, and the spiritual is meant to be material. All of a sudden, the world just becomes so chock-a-block full of possibility. Things aren't just so limited, right? And so working with the energies of Mercury can really help us to do this. Because Mercury is this god of communication. Mercury is one of the only gods who can go through all of the realms, all of the different spiritual realms. Mercury is a psychopomp, right? Helping souls of the dead past. So Mercury is this incredibly fluid, this beautifully free energy that can really help us move past the dualities or the narrow perceptions of the mind and enter into the world of spirit and possibility. I will leave you with this. The quote that I love to associate with Mercury, in my practice at least, is from Oscar Wilde, late great Oscar Wilde, that to define is to limit. And humans, oh my God, we love it. And I understand definition to a point because it can help us understand something. But, I find the further you go down any spiritual path, the more you try to define, the more you try to limit. I find it can sometimes be, intentionally or not, a method of control, trying to control spirit. Like ego wants to control it so bad. And spirit's just like, LOL. So Mercury can help us move past these illusions of control, to see definition as a foundation, but not a limitation, and to go beyond these definitions that have perhaps been keeping us stuck. So this Mercury retrograde, if there is the temptation to be frustrated and to feel afraid, I encourage you, we don't need to limit our perception of Mercury retrograde to just hiccups and don't sign that document. Perhaps, right? But what else is there? What else is Mercury opening you up to through your heart, through the mind? What are you able to channel? What harmony and power are you able to create through embracing this head and heart unity? I will leave you with this, my friends. I hope this was helpful and interesting. Thank you so much for being here. Take care. Happy magic making.